Proverbs 31 woman. This message is mostly for women, but you men, wouldn't hurt you to listen in because it's about the woman you love and the one you married. Now, Proverbs 31 describes a virtuous woman beginning in verse 10. So right off the bat, what are we talking about here? Virtuous. Well, meaning morally good, modest, decent, abstaining from all or unlawful sexual relations. Now, when you and your spouse married, did you visualize both of you doing your own thing with just anyone who came along that pleased your eyesight? And I'll bet not. In fact, I would venture to guess that the thought of the person you loved even being with someone else made your hair stand on end. Am I right? And what happens to couples? Why are we falling apart as a nation, as loving people who initially were devoted to one another? More than half of all marriages end in divorce. And the numbers for Christian marriages, well, they're pretty close to that. So why? Well, this is due to many things, but for this purpose today, let's take just a few important details and discuss it. All right, verse 10. It says, who can find a virtuous woman? Well, her price, it said, is far above rubies. Did you know that rubies are worth more than diamonds? Diamonds are not a girl's best friend, as the song relates. Your husband is. When a man wants to find a wife, do you really think that he cruises the loose part of town and gawks at all the scantily dressed females with parts exposed, like in the movie Pretty Woman? Hardly. Verse 11 discloses her husband wants to trust her so that he shall have no need of spoil. Well, what does that mean? Well, you are committed to him and him only. In other words, she will richly bless and satisfy his needs, not hinder him, but it says she will do him good and not evil all the days of her life. Now, as a coach and a counselor, I have to tell you, I've heard a lot of comments and complaints on both sides of the table. Yep. Now, since this message is for women, I'm going to address what women can do. Well, what did it say? To satisfy his needs, because if there's anything I've personally learned over the years, it is this. When a woman learns how to satisfy a man's needs, all of them, he won't be going out on you. And I am not just talking about sex. Quite frankly, your man will treat you as you treat him. Do you want to be first in his life? Then put him first, not your kids, not your mother, not your friends, not your work, not your job, your husband. And guess what? Use your words. You see, that which flows from your mouth is either going to be your best weapon against any odds that come against you, or your mouth, your words, will become your worst enemy, your worst nightmare. You choose. The secret is all in words spoken. Words of commission as well as words of omission. Now there. If you do not tell your husband the good things you recognize about him, someone else will. He's not looking around because you're not pretty enough, or because you're not smart enough, or because you're not diligent enough. You see, he saw all those qualities about you and appreciated them from the get-go. And that's why you're his wife and not someone else. But women are tempted, just as Satan tempted Eve in the garden, to betray the relationship by doing or saying something that you know in your heart not to. Verse 12 says, she will do him good and not evil all the days of her life. You say, well, my husband did this, or he said that, and he shouldn't have. And that hurt me. Okay, and you probably countered it with something just as lethal, or perhaps worse than what he said to you because, well, you wanted to see if you could top him. Am I right? All right, instead, when anyone, says something negative to you, rather than struggling to think of a comeback, just smile gently, look at them, and softly say, oh, now say something nice. Don't you be the one to play the game of the devil. You're above that. Your nice words and your attitude will shut the mouth of the lion. They are now able to look at themselves in the mirror by your loving, generous, and wise words. They'll see what they did and said wrong. Proverbs 15:23 states, "A word spoken in due season, how good it is." Proverbs 16:18 tells us, "Pride goes before destruction, and haughtiness goes before a fall." But getting even with someone is pride, and it will end badly. Now then, so what else does a virtuous woman do? Well, it says she keeps herself busy. She has a life. She knows her purpose here on earth, and daily she carries it out. Ladies, begin to recognize your many capabilities. You have them. And step out in this world and share them. This will come back to you in multiple ways. First, men love diligence and accomplishment. They notice those men who work and they're successful, they look for women who are also accomplished and can add to their self-image and to you as a couple. Yeah, they look for that. You see, this woman worked with her hands. She spun wool, flax, she made clothes for her family, she sews for the poor, she helps those in need, she bought imported food, she prepared meals. You say, well, look, I don't have time, and I don't have the energy for that because I work during the day. Okay, listen to this. Verse 16 tells us she goes out to inspect a field, a piece of land, she buys it, and then with her own hands, she plants a vineyard. I get the buying part. I think I'd probably hire someone to plant the vineyard, but you get my point. It says she's energetic. She's a hard worker. She watches for bargains. She works far into the night. She's just not idle. Now, I'm not saying all women have to be like this woman to be virtuous. And you don't have to be like this woman exactly to keep the attention of your husband. But just look at the one thing that you know that you do better than anyone else. Okay? Anyone else that you've ever heard of, there are things you've been given that they haven't. What driving passion has God placed on your heart? That's your asset. See, those virtues are what your husband noticed about you when he first met you. You need to start noticing the good things about you too. Verse 25 says the virtuous woman is a woman of strength and dignity, and she has no fear of old age. Now, that doesn't mean that Botox is out. Let's keep yourself looking good for yourself first. Then your man will notice. So it goes on to say, when she speaks her words, they're wise, they're kind. See, kindness is the rule for everything she says. She watches carefully all that goes on throughout her household. She's never idle. She knows. She uses discernment of God from her spirit. In other words, she knows what's going on everywhere. Nobody pulls anything over her eyes. Be smart. Use what God's given you. Her children stand and bless her. So does her husband. Now, how is it that her children even respect and bless her? Because it says her husband praises her aloud in front of the children. Listen, if he respects her, they will too. He says these words to her. There are many fine women in the world, but you are the best of them all. How many women would die to hear those words flowing from their spouse's lips? Well, you can. You be kind, gentle, complimentary, encouraging. First, you plant positive seeds with your words and then watch them grow and come back to you to lift you up, because they will. How can a woman be all this? How can she receive so much from her man as this? Because first, she reverences God. It says so in verse 30, and I quote, "Charm can be deceptive and beauty doesn't last, but a woman who fears and reverences God, puts him first, shall be greatly praised." You see, these things come back to you. The good deeds of hers shall bring her honor. They'll bring her recognition from people of importance. Is your husband important? He is. Treat him as such every day. And then watch the fruit of your hands and lips, your righteous words, bring the blessing back to you in numbers. Proverbs 14:1 tells us every wise woman builds her house. She doesn't tear it down, she builds it. While a foolish woman tears hers down by her own efforts. Her words that she shouldn't have spoken. I'm Susan Bailey. It's a new day. What encouraging thing can you say before the sun goes down? Think about it. Be a wise one. Who needs this message? Could you forward it to someone you know could need it?